Hello guys, so welcome back to a video and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well first of all, and it's nice to see you again, even though I'm not seeing you, but you're seeing me. Wow, I've tried this intro about 9 times now, and I'm just gonna roll with what's coming out of my mouth. So this could be a little bit all over the place because I am definitely out of practice, but welcome back. I kind of wanted to sit down today and sort of fill you in on the last couple of months of my life. So yes, it's Monday, start of a new week, time to start being in this place again. So I kind of wanted to split this video up into a few different sections. I really wanted to just tell you guys what I've been up to. I've been filming a few little clips over the last couple of months, not too many. No crazy whirlwind trips. For sure, no exciting announcements, just a very mundane summer, which I've actually quite enjoyed. Maybe not so much towards the start of the summer, but I will talk about that as well. I also just wanted to have a little chat with you guys about a few things too that have been quite prevalent in my thoughts at the moment, quite on my mind. And a lot of that is to do with the topic of burnout. I think millennial burnout is very much the topic of the moment that we all seem to be acknowledging now, which is a good thing, and talking about a little bit more, which I think is definitely helpful. But I just wanted to kind of address it and talk to you about my own thoughts on that subject, and kind of just have a little sit down mental dump of where I feel like I am as a creator in terms of the content that I'm putting out to you guys, and just sort of where I feel I fit in this space nowadays, because it's constantly changing, constantly evolving. But let's talk about the life stuff first. So I also want to say again to you guys, I said this before in the last video I put up, which was somewhere around the end of June, but thank you so much for your support throughout June. I've still been getting comments and messages on those videos up until right now, and it means a lot to me that you guys are still there watching and wondering, you know, when I'm going to come back and when you're going to see the next video. 99% of those in a very respectful way as well, might I add, so thank you. So yeah, at the beginning of, I want to say it was the end of June, beginning of July, I did plan to take a couple of weeks off. That was always planned, and I did that, but then unfortunately it kind of spiraled into something that wasn't planned, and I had a few health issues. When things like that happen, when something is out of the norm, or I experience symptoms for something that I'm not used to, my brain kind of shuts down and I go into this very quiet, anxious place where logic kind of just goes out the window, and I maybe don't do the things that necessarily going to help me, because I'm almost sort of paralyzed a little bit by fear, whether that's completely blown out of proportion or whether it's actually quite valid. But I find that very difficult, and for me I did just sort of shut down. Luckily I do have a very logical person in my life that sees things very black and white and is very solution based, and I'm quite grateful and thankful for having him there, especially at that time, because it was incredible help to have someone to just pull you out of that very stressful, very anxious time where I didn't really know what was going on, but they were very calm, cool, collected. And I think it's hard for someone, especially having a partner like me who deals with things like anxiety and depression and a few mental health issues that have been there all my life, really, things that I maybe have a stronger hold on now, but haven't necessarily always, and sometimes it kind of dips and flows. But the best thing really you can do is just talk about it. And although it's hard to maybe express how you're feeling, how your brain works, which may not be very relatable to that person, I think just getting out in the open and having someone really that may not understand but is willing to accept that and willing to learn is an incredible thing, and something I'm very lucky I feel to have. So for the rest of the month I really just decided to take things slowly, more so for myself, and I tried not to think too much about maybe other commitments that I had, things I had to do, my ever-growing to-do list, which still terrifies me. And that's how that kind of all started. So we, after a few weeks, took a little trip away for the weekend, and it was honestly the best thing. I've never felt so at peace, and I kind of just felt like this is what I needed, and I didn't realize that I just needed to be away in the countryside, no other humans around me for miles, and just kind of enjoy that time being at peace with myself and my small little family around me of Joe and the dog, just kind of taking that time to chill. We went to the East Coast. We went to Suffolk, which is somewhere I've never actually been before. It's a very beautiful, typical English countryside kind of place, and I absolutely loved it. Although I live in the city now, and I really enjoy the kind of vibrant city life and all the things that are available and the things that you can do here, I am still a country girl at heart. So being around trees and fresh air and just the quiet of the countryside and the darkness, when you turn those lights out, you can't see a thing. It's not like here where there's constant planes, lights, cars, people. It is just another world really in the countryside, and that was such a nice experience, even just for a long weekend. So that was the kind of the start of my month, and it kind of set the tone, I think, for having just a very chilled, laid back summer where I was going to focus more on myself and getting into a place that I felt comfortable than anything else. I almost feel like I took a little bit of time to nest. I am not pregnant, do not worry, there are no children on their way anytime soon. But I think it kind of got to a point where we still didn't feel completely at home here in the flat. So there were little things to do that have been on the list for a really long time, actually quite big things to do. We still had a couple of rooms to really get to the place where we wanted them to be and to feel comfortable in. So we spent a lot of time doing that. Joe was in the garden for a week, just pulling out trees and taking stuff to the tip and burning stuff and making a really nice space out of what was a jungle beforehand. And then I've shared a few clips around this room and for maybe what you can see behind you. There's been quite a few changes. This is the main living space in the flat. This is the room that I adore. I love spending time in here, and even more so now that it's kind of exactly how we wanted it to be. So I'm not going to go too much into detail now because I still want to carry on the moving series vlogs. There's still kind of one big room transformation video to come, which I'm excited to share with you guys. But I'll also be doing a big home update. So kind of the finishing touches, the final things, and then eventually I'm guessing like a flat tour, a finished flat tour, which I know you really wanted to see. When I moved in here, it's been 6 months now. That was one of the first things that got requested, and now I feel like it's in a place that I'm happy to share everything with you and kind of share the journey of how we got here, the pieces that we've picked furniture wise, and just how everything came to be. We actually spent quite a while on this. Decorating is not a particularly quick task. It feels like the easiest thing in the world to just paint a few walls and move a few things around, but it's very time consuming and it gets a little bit mundane towards the end. So it wasn't the quickest process, but I'm so happy with how it's turned out. So yeah, that will be something to come, which will definitely be here on this channel for you guys to see. So as well as working on kind of my surroundings and where I am and making my home a very comfortable place where I feel completely at ease, I've also been working on myself in a couple of ways, but one of them mainly more physically. And I preach this so much, but the reason that I sort of started getting into exercise probably a year and a half ago, which was predominantly running back then, was not actually just for my body and to do something healthy and to get some movement, but also for the effects that it has on my brain. So for me, whenever I see exercise and I start factoring it into my life, I notice such a difference as well in my mental health. So I really started thinking about that more throughout July. I don't think I'd gotten myself into the healthiest place. I think it's the case with any new relationship. You get very comfortable and you want to do new things. You want to go out and enjoy your time together. And one of the biggest things that I enjoy, and I think Joe is the same, is food and finding new places to eat and just enjoying meals together, whether that's out or cooking at home. We both really love to cook, especially on the weekends. And while there is absolutely nothing wrong with that to me, that's time I'm enjoying and that's things that I'm choosing to enjoy with the person that I want to enjoy them with. I think it's also important to find balance. So I don't think I've been taking as much care of myself and my body as I maybe should have done to sort of balance that out. So running for me obviously is my kind of main form of exercise, and it's something that I really enjoy. Putting a pair of trainers on and just going outside and running around is such a freeing experience. It's such a great place to kind of digest thoughts and just get outside as well and get into the fresh air. But I've also been trying a few different things recently. So I started doing spin, and I've talked about this a little bit in vlogs, but I kind of caught the bug recently. Over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I have been so into it, and I've actually been going to a class every single day. I really love it, and I never thought I would be that person that's kind of raring to go every single day to work out, to exercise. That just seems completely alien to me, especially something as intense as a spin class. It's a very dark room with lots of people on bikes, bright flashing lights, really loud music, and someone telling you what to do. And at first I kind of thought, wow, this is so out of my depth and my comfort zone. But I think that's something important to sort of push, is to find things that you have the potential to enjoy, and you know are going to be good for you, and you know you're going to actually really like. I'm pushing past that boundary of this being really out of my comfort zone, not really wanting to necessarily do this with a lot of people around me, which is one of the reasons I like to run, because it's a very individual thing. But I got so into it, and I'm so happy I did, because it's kind of like a 45-minute block of time for myself. At the end of the day, I get to sweat completely red and exhausted and barely able to walk towards the end of it, but it's something for me. So that's been a really big thing for me, getting into that. And I've also been trying on the opposite end of the scale, some yoga. This is slightly newer to me, but something that I think is gonna be a really good balance on that scale of having something very energetic and then having something more chill and calming and very much for your mind and for peacefulness. So I've been doing some hot yoga, which is not the easiest thing to do, being in a very, very warm room with a lot of sweaty people and trying to warrior and cobra and all these sorts of things. But at the end of it, I do always come out feeling just so zen with myself, especially yin yoga, which if you guys don't know, I'm sure you can look all these things up on YouTube, by the way. They have some great tutorials for you to do at home. You don't actually have to go all the way out to a yoga class. But yin yoga is so meditative and calming. You basically have a lot of pillows and blankets around you, and it's kind of holding poses for an extended period of time. It's just very much all lying down, being sleepy, being calm, and just breathing a lot. So that as well, I think, has been so good for my mind, because it really is just an hour to sort of zone out, not think about the things that are stressful and that are hard for me to process. It's just an hour of nothing. That kind of brings me on to one of the topics that I did want to talk about in this video, and it's kind of the subject of burnout and the levels of stress that I think all of us these days, nowadays, can relate to, no matter our careers, our jobs, our place in life. It's something that I think is very prevalent at the moment, and it's really hard to not only identify but to deal with too. So for me, I really started to notice this towards the end of June, and I think my main problem here is creative burnout. Although it may not seem like it takes a lot to sort of hold up a camera and talk about your day and show people things on the internet, it's something I struggle with, because I feel like I'm more of a perfectionist when it comes to videos. That may not seem apparent, but I like things a certain way, and if they're not that way, it does get to me, and I find it hard to relinquish the control I have on wanting things to be perfect. And it's something I've gotten better at, definitely. I feel like my videos are nowhere near as polished as they used to be, but in a good way. I'm not trying to present something that's not completely accurate to you. I'm trying to show you my real life. And what that kind of leads to is this very strange feeling of stress that I encounter when I go to pick up a camera, whether that's a vlog camera to film like I am now, or film some of my day, or if I'm just picking up my phone to take a picture. I feel this kind of anticipation of what I'm about to do, what I'm about to say, how I'm going to look, the message behind it, what it's going to mean, what it's actually giving to the internet when I'm sharing it. And that's a really, I think, unhealthy place that I found myself in, and it does sort of stop me a lot of the time from just sharing organically. I can't pick up a camera and take a photo without having to make sure it's exactly how I want it to be, and there being a story behind it and spreading the right kind of vibe. And I think there can be balance with that. There can be a way of creating in a way you want to create, in a way that is very real, but also in keeping with the kind of message and the aesthetic that you want to share. I think, myself being a perfectionist, I just find it very hard to keep that balance and to not overthink the whole process of it, rather than just sharing what I want to share without having to go through all of that. So I think that a high level of stress can be very attributed to a creative burnout happening, and just getting to that point where you find it impossible to keep that balance, and therefore it sort of tips the scales entirely, and you cannot share the things that you want to share because you can't find a way to keep up this level of the way that you want to share it. And that is where my biggest struggle lies. I think this gets very exacerbated, especially when social media comes into play, and for me personally, that is pretty much where my job is and what I do. So it's something unavoidable. And social media, I think, does perpetuate that ideal of living your best life and having the perfect Instagrammable image at all times. And it's just something that's not attainable. And for me, I think I'm one of the people that doesn't focus too much on the other things I see on social media. So for those that do, and I know it is a very affecting thing and people really do absorb a lot of what they see and feel like it has to be what they're doing as well, that is incredibly difficult. And I think it also then blurs the line between what is your life and your work life, especially if you are someone that works on social media for a living. You're promoting your real life and your everyday life, but it's still work at the same time. So where is that line drawn? If you're going out for a meal or a day out or just a kind of event, a family event, do you take a picture of this? Do you have to document it? You want to share your life with your followers, but then where do you stop and say, no, this is actually just for me? I think that's something that's been talked about so many times in so many different various platforms, and people have probably had a much more eloquent way of discussing it than I have. But it's almost like we now have to break our lives down into compartments: life, work, relationships, friendships, and it is so hard to keep all of those ticking over at the same time, especially when some of those things become blurred. My relationship may be something that is just for me and that I want to invest time into away from any other eyes, but yeah, it's something that people want to see online on the internet. It all becomes very jumbled and very hard to distinguish between what actually is for you and what's for other people. And the only way that I think my brain manages to deal with that situation is completely shutting down and shutting off, and the creativity and knowing how to create content just goes. It just leaves my brain. I sit down, I have a camera, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, what to take a photo of, what to talk about, what to share. It just stops, and it's quite a scary feeling actually, especially when this is something, it's a business that I've built for the last 9 years, and when your brain kind of just tunes out of that and turns off, that for me is quite a worrying feeling. And I think really all that we can do and all that I've learned to do to deal with that is to take a step away. And that may seem like the opposite thing to do, to stop creating, to then feel like you can create more. But for me, I really feel like I need to reset my brain every so often. Sometimes it just does get too much. And I think sometimes I focus so much on creating things for others that I don't focus on things that are just for me and maintaining myself as a person to be able to do that, and it all just becomes a bit too much. So that's a little bit of a brain dump, and a topic that I really do think has so much more potential to be discussed. People in different industries, people that work in different jobs, I think we all feel it, but in our own different ways, and it's something quite interesting to hear different perspectives on. I'm really keen to start a kind of mental health series here on this channel. It's something that I've thought about for so long, and I've always talked about wanting to discuss topics like that, but never knowing how to say it right and how to, have the words and how to help people as well, because I never think it's worth talking about something that has the potential to affect others, but without having a way to contribute to other people's experiences in a positive light. So finding a way to kind of help almost, and that's something that I think is really important, not to just dump a load of thoughts that aren't necessarily going to give anything to the person listening and watching, but maybe do it in a way that does have the potential to uplift someone that maybe needs it. So it's something that I really want to do, and I think it's going to be maybe part of this channel coming up. I think most importantly, I'd love to get other people's perspectives on certain topics. So I think I will be taking this to Instagram, maybe asking a few questions and discussing them in videos when I kind of pick a certain thing that I want to talk about. So that's kind of exciting for me. I think it's a new avenue I can explore on this channel that I haven't necessarily done before. I like to talk about real life things, and I like to keep it very relatable. So if you guys do have anything that you want to discuss that you can input your opinions into as well, so it's kind of a whole sharing situation, that would be so great to know and to get some ideas on. So leave me some comments down below, send me a message somewhere if you can. Thank you guys so much for coming back and watching. If you've been waiting for something to pop up, maybe a little bit more superficial, aka fashion wise, or a vlog, I'm sure that kind of content will be coming back to you soon, because I still enjoy making it for sure. So for now, I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts, and if you do have your own, please let's chat about them in the comments. I love having discussions with you on these types of things. And that is it for me today, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye from this sleepy little sausage that's been napping here this whole time, and yes, I will see you all soon.